welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm Christopher Harngen, director of Pittsburgh Opera, and delighted to welcome the creative team, the creators of this evening's Opera 27. Ricky and Gordon on my right, the composer, and Royce Vavrek, the librettist. Welcome. Ricky is not a stranger to us because Ricky has been in Pittsburgh, he went to CMU, and he's been at our company before. When you came to CMU, had you ever heard of Gertrude Stein? Did you know about her place in literary history? Did you discover her when you were here? Tell us the story.
I knew about Gertrude Stein in as much as she was the librettist of Bertram Thompson's Four Saints and Three Acts of the Mother of Us All, and I knew a lot of her poems that had been set to music, but I didn't know much about her. And what happened was, I was living in Shadyside. I got a terrible cold. I was here as a piano major. I wasn't even a composer yet. And I picked up this book called Charmed Circle that was sitting around in my house. And I just ate tangerines for a week and read this book, Charmed Circle, and became obsessed with Gertrude Stein, to the point where I befriended all the painters at Carnegie Mellon, and I would buy their work. So as soon as I read about Gertrude Stein, I started modeling my life after her in a way. I went to New York, I filled all my walls with paintings, and I was a young composer, and I would debut all my pieces in my apartment. And I created sort of a salon, a Saturday night salon. So it all began here. I totally thought I was the male version of Gertrude Stein.
So then what happened? The phone rang one day and somebody said, oh, okay, we want an opera on Gertrude Stein.
Okay, so fast forward to many years later, I get a call from Opera Theater St. Louis, and Jim Robinson, who was the artistic director, wanted to know if I wanted to write an opera for Stephanie Blythe. And I immediately said, yes, Gertrude Stein. Because Stephanie is a formidable presence with a formidable voice. And most of all, if you know her or you're friends with her, and I'm sure you will concur, you cannot be in a room with Stephanie without her presiding. If Stephanie's in the room, she is presiding and you're listening. Or you're captivated by whatever conversation she is holding forward with. And so I thought she'd be a perfect Gertrude Stein. And then this gentleman sitting next to me, Royce Vavrek, who's a genius, basically I called him one day, and I will not say I had a lot of time to write this opera. And I thought of him, and I called him and said, well, if you can read 15 books and write me a libretto in a month, you have the job. And blame it on his youth, but he said yes. So I told him, first of all, I wanted the paintings to sing. I wanted the opera to be not about, there was enough about Gertrude Stein and her writing. I wanted it to be about her life, about the salon, about her relationship with Alice. I didn't want to whitewash her. I loved the speculation of, there was speculation about how did Gertrude and Alice stay safe during World War II, two Jewish lesbians. And I wanted to include that. And then I told him what my favorite line of Gertrude Stein's was, which was, before the flowers of friendship faded. And
it's your job to find the hidden line. It's not so hidden.
So he just called you out of the blue and said, okay, this is it, can you do it?
Yeah.
Did you hesitate?
No.
You're a foolish person.
Yeah, no, I knew very, very little about Gertrude Stein going into this. I had seen Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris, so I had this notion that Gertrude Stein was Kathy Bates, and so when Ricky said you had to read 15 books, I literally had to. There was no cheating. I had to read 15 books, and I started with the autobiography of Alice Vitolis. And then I went and I found a copy of Charmed Circle. It's about the group of people that Gertrude Stein, with her as the center, her as the eye of the story.
yeah.
And it's an unbelievably, beautifully, and thoughtfully put together tome. It's a big volume. And I went and I tried to find as many phrases or as many ideas that it just sang or came and felt like they were meant to be a theatrical moment. And then I knew that one way to make this, I only had 6 weeks. I had to read and then sort of purge and create this libretto in no time. So I sort of lived and breathed. I cloistered myself in my apartment, and then the last week I ran away to my dramaturg's house, he lived in Hastings-on-Hudson, and I did not leave the confines of his beautiful home for 7 days. And we had 3 a.m. dramaturgy meetings, and it was the most intense but fruitful and really, really amazing week getting that. It was after Ricky gave me his first set of notes too, so I knew that I was really pushing towards a version that hopefully Ricky could really sink his teeth into.
Could you just dig into that dramaturgy bit? Like, what is a dramaturgist, and what does he or she do, and why did you need to do that?
I love my dramaturg. I worked with this gentleman named Mike Cohen. He sat across from me and he would just read everything. Or I love to read my work, so I would sit there and I would read a lyric to him, and he'd say, well, you don't need that verse, you don't need that verse. If you move that up top, it's this much more stronger. And he's really great at saying, oh, here's a line. If you can put this line in Act 1 and then put it in Act 5, this gives Ricky the opportunity to either use that and create some motivic things, or he can play against that. So he's really the advocate for the audience, I like to say, and he is there, he just questions every line and makes sure that my intention is being manifested in the best way possible. And he really just tries to help me create the piece. Until I say, it's fine, he'll push forever to try to get me to do better and better and better and better work.
As a composer, you didn't start working, composing any of the music until you got the words from Royce, and then tell us how that all works out.
Yeah, in a way, I was building the atmosphere inside myself, because there's a thing that happens when you're going to write a piece, which is, and I always, the best way I've ever described it, for me, in my process, it's like a shadow pushing itself against your back, where you start hearing sort of what the inner life of the piece is going to be, the atmosphere. And usually for me it means I'm listening to pieces that I sort of want the piece to be modeled after. And the pieces I was listening to obsessively were Verdi's Falstaff, in particular because the energy of Falstaff is a lot of the energy that I wanted 27 to be. And especially in that Falstaff is meant to be a comic opera, but when it reaches deep in a beautiful, poignant, and still slightly humorous way. When I was listening to that, I was listening to Britten's Albert Herring, but in particular Act 1, and then a lot of Macy's, but in particular the woman, Germaine Taillefer. I was listening to a lot of her music just because she was a woman at that time writing music. But yes, so I was building the inner life of the piece, and in a way I knew how it was going to begin, but I can't begin until the finished libretto, or at least the libretto I can start from, is on my table.
How does it go from there?
Well, Royce did something very ingenious in this opera, and I'll just tell you that it's one act, meaning there's no intermission, but it's 5 acts and a prologue. And what he did that made it so easy to dive into the piece is the impetus for the piece to exist in the first place is Alice alone. Alice after Gertrude has died. And so the prologue, and right on the page, it says, Alice knits the world. And so Royce makes it that Alice is furiously knitting, and she knits back to life, the salon and Gertrude. And because it's so palpable, the idea that someone in their desperate loneliness has such a need to knit back to life the world when she was happy, when she was in love, that made it so easy to dive in. So I just sat down one day, and this is a weird thing about writing, but a lot of times it's always the first idea. So I just sat down, I put my hands on the piano, and it was like, it was like the opera. I wrote it really fast.
So Royce, you were at the other end of the phone, and would he call and say, I can't, can you change these words? I can't do it. Or basically, did he just set the whole thing?
There were little finessing things. So there was yes, I was in Canada visiting my family, and I got a call that Ricky had written up to the Wives of Geniuses moment, which happens early-ish in the opera. And he said, oh, I really feel like this is a number. Can you revisit these lyrics and see if there's a way that you can try to structure them so that they create a really substantial song? And so overnight, you have lyrics in your inbox. And so things like that have to, and so I think that when you submit a final draft of libretto, it's sort of like the final compositional draft. It is intended to be to set Ricky on his way, and then little changes or big changes. If there was a big change, I would, because as a librettist you go first, but my job is to really create the most inspiring text for Ricky, so that he can really, really just jump off it and create something much bigger than the words on the page. And so if something isn't working for Ricky or for any composer, I think that it's the librettist's job to facilitate more inspiring words.
So then it goes to the company, the producing company, and then there's input there, and then it goes to Stephanie Bly, and then what happens?
A really big thing happened, and this was a great thing about Stephanie Bly, which was she did not tell me to rewrite one thing, but we had our first workshop in New York, and she said, I want you to hear something. I'm going to sing through the whole piece for you today. What happened was, when she sang through it, it was beautiful, but she said, do you see the way some of it sits high, which I can do, but I have to think about it. And she said, my fantasy is as Gertrude, I want to speak, I don't want to worry about my singing. I said, I totally get it. So I went home and rewrote the whole role of Gertrude with that in mind. And it's still pretty much the same. I just changed a lot of the climaxes, and I changed the approaches to the climax because I never wanted to be worried about singing it. And it was pretty exciting because when we did the first room run in St. Louis, Stephanie said, this is the biggest and the greatest role I've ever done. I mean, it was very exciting. I'm proud of this opera. I'm proud of what we made. I feel like I cried one day in rehearsal and I said to Royce, I know I was supposed to write this opera. I loved these people and I knew I was supposed to write about them.
So now what are you feeling right this minute? Because this is the first production since then. And you have had no inkling of how, whereas in St. Louis you were presumably there for the whole rehearsal period or most of it. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
What I'm feeling, and then I'll hand it over to Royce, but I'm excited because everything, first of all, Jennifer, the director, came and met with me in New York. But everything I've read on Facebook or online is about how much fun these people have been having doing the piece. Like playing it, singing it, and that alone is
They
so
said it was fun? Did they say it was fun? No. Okay.
They seem to have been having fun.
They told you
Have you been lying? No. Even like the guys.
My usual sarcastic self.
The other day, Mark Trucker put on Facebook, I'm trepidatious in saying this because I never like to put a jinx on anything, but I have a feeling we're going to make Ricky happy. And I just thought, I know they are. If that's how they feel, they will. You know what I mean? What do you think, Royce?
I'm excited. I think Opera America said that 90% of operas, of new operas, do not get second productions. So this is an amazing gift for us. So thank you very, very, very much. And it's also really exciting to be a creator who comes in at this moment where we're not so involved in the creative process, of the staging process, and we just get to come and enjoy new ideas. It's really, really exciting.
And of course, there's a mixture of trepidation and excitement because obviously there's this weird thing that goes on. You've completely forged this creation which is yours, and then you have to let off it goes. And indeed there must be this sort of conflict because you want to hang on to it and make sure it's the way you want it to be, and then you also have to acknowledge it's actually the world's now. So tonight you're going to see, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see how you, react to this. I want to give you a little bit of a break before the excitement of starting this at 8 o'clock. At the end of the performance, you're all invited to a very, very large cast party in the extension of Gertrude's salon back there. And then you'll be able to mingle with the performers and ask further piercing and intelligent questions of these two wonderful gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming.
On Monday, she's walking her stable. Oh, baby, sweet baby, sweet baby.